the market order helps move price faster. Now, why do I say that? Okay, because the market order adds momentum to the existing demand and supply already there. It helps move price further up away. And generally speaking, okay, when we talk in terms of market orders, we get to know, okay, that these traders who put markets are generally, and I'm saying generally speaking over here, are generally the kind of people who know what they are doing. They are not, okay, people randomly trading, and they are armed with a certain set of information which tells them that, okay, I want to get into this market now, and I want to get into this market quickly. And because of that, okay, we say that price moves faster when there is a market order. Now, in an order flow chart, you really do not need to get into the details of why it is a limit order or why it is a market order.
Good evening, everyone. A quick sound check. I hope I'm audible. Great. So welcome back to this Monday 5 p.m. session, which we have every week. Let us start with the review of what happened last week in spot, and then we'll get on with the action which took place today, both in spot as well as in futures. So coming to the weekly report, which I have mentioned that we publish it on the website every week, and this was done yesterday, and we have a small synopsis of what happened in the previous week in both Nifty as well as Bank Nifty, and what we can look forward for this week with the probable hypos. So what we did last week in Nifty was we started with this 313 profile, and we discussed about this on last Monday also at 5 p.m. where we opened higher but did not get demand. We made a range extension lower, but we took support right above that extension handle of 24508 from 16th of August. So we had a neutral extreme profile on 16th of August, and the 24508 was the neutral extreme low. So whenever these extension handles are getting defended, that means the initiative player who had come in, who caused that extension handle, is defending that zone. So which is why when we left this small tail at the lows on Monday, it was clear that this 24508B is being defended by the buyer. So from here, what we did the next day was we made a move away to the upside. We negated this A period selling tail and we formed a fresh A period buying tail. So we have always emphasized how we give lot of importance to the A period tail in market profile, because it indicates that the big player has entered right at the open and the market will be in sync with his position. So once we got this A period buying tail, we knew that the PLR, the path of least resistance, was to the upside. Although we did not extend much and we formed a P-shaped profile on Tuesday, but this A period holding was telling us that as long as this is held, we can look for a probe continuing to the upside. And on Wednesday, what we did was we opened in the range and we tested this buying tail and we immediately got rejected. So just like how this D period lows on Monday showed us rejection from this 24508, on Wednesday we got a rejection from the Tuesday's initiative buying tail. So it was confirming that the PLR is still to the upside, and what we did on that day after forming overlapping value was give a small spike into the close. We left an extension handle and we went on to make new highs, and we had mentioned in previous week's reports that in case we are above the neutral extreme zone, we can look for a entry into this well balanced weekly value of 24782, 935, and 963. So what we did on Wednesday was knock into this weekly value, and because that was a spike, we needed confirmation, and how that confirmation would come with the acceptance of the spike. So this spike low, just like how this 24508 had to be defended, this spike low also had to be defended. And this was again a 2-day balance which we had formed, from where the auction showed us that it wants to move away again to the upside. So the main trend was prevailing. So from there, we opened higher into the weekly value, but again, we did not find any demand at these new highs. So what we did was formed a narrow range normal day. Normal day is a day where the initial balance is not extended on any side. So that was telling us that now the auction has moved higher, and this is uh, coming to a previous supply zone, because this was the gap down from the 2nd and 5th of August. So that is why it had to take some time and spend time forming value in this zone. So again, what we did on Friday was we made a attempt to probe below Thursday's low, but then still this extension handle was defended, and we remained in previous day's value and range for most part. So what we have done in last week was, if you see the weekly profile, we have formed a triple distribution trend up weekly profile. The first distribution was on the first day, where we formed the 313 profile with the HVN or the POC at 24581. Then this was followed by a 2-day balance with the prominent POC at 24711. And then again, it was followed by another 2-day balance on Thursday and Friday. And it closed around the top. The POC also had shifted there, and we had the more prominent POC of 24823 at that level. So the weekly profile was the triple distribution to the upside with completely higher value. So the next week's auction would be bullish as long as we stay above this 24824. So 24824 was our first reference on the downside, and spot closed at 24823. So as long as we were above 24824, we were looking for a probe to the VPOCs of 24935 and 24987. And on the downside, below 24824, 24754 would have been our support. So what have we done on the weekly chart? Let us have a look at today's play. So this is previous week's profile. And as I mentioned, this 24987 was the previous weekly VPOC, which has not been tagged. So we are looking for 80% rule if we get into this weekly value, and the weekly value area high was 25408, 25048. So you can see how we also had the hypos given out for today, with 24824 being the first reference on the upside. Above that, we had the swing high of 24867 from 22nd August, and then the weekly VPOC of 24935, the daily VPOC of 987, and then finally the 1st August selling tail from 25059. So what did we do today? We opened above this range, and we made a low of 24878. So we were getting accepted above previous week's high, and we were in this value. So what we did in Nifty today was, we completed the 80% rule in this weekly value, because this, as you can see, this is a nice balance. And then we went on to make a high of 25054 in with the seaside extension. So we made the dreaded seaside extension, which wants us to that the move may be stalling. So after that, we just remained in a narrow range. After making the high in the C, we remained in a narrow range, and we have formed a P-shaped profile in Nifty spot. And we have closed right at the prominent POC of 25044. So here again, we have left this long A period tail, and we have moved away from this weekly value. So this A period tail, and which is also coinciding with today's halfback of 24985. will be our support for the rest of the week. We have the monthly settlement on Thursday in spot, and the calendar month is also getting over on Friday. So this will be an interesting level to watch all this week. And as long as we are holding this AP rate tail of today, we can look for getting new all-time highs into this week. So that is how we are placed in Nifty spot. On the downside, below, if we break into this singles, then our next reference would be this prominent POC of 24853, the weekly POC. So if I switch this to the daily chart of spot, we can see how these two VPOCs got tagged. They were the objectives in case we were holding previous week's POC at the open. So that is what it did. It went on to complete this objective. But what we are doing now is this AP rate tail. This is an initiative tail, and this is a special case. Why is it a special case? Because this has come on 1st of August, where we hit new all-time highs. So any AP rate tail anyways is given lot of importance in market profile, and an AP rate tail which comes in a new zone where it is tagged that zone for the first time is all the more important. It is called a special case, and this was clearly telling us that there was no demand coming at these new all-time highs on 1st of August. And we had this session even on the monthly time frame when the charts got the July charts were done, and we had spoken about how the August month has started on a bearish note because we have got this AP rate selling tail. Similar selling tail we had seen in Bank Nifty in July itself. So this has come in August in Nifty, and from this selling tail we can see how we went on to probe lower and make these lows of 23893. So from here, if you see, we can see lot of the value was being formed lower on the daily time frame, and we were seeing multiple extensions to the downside after the initial balance was formed. So this is where we stalled when we hit this VPOC of 23950 on 5th of August, and we left this small responsive buying tail. But this was still a responsive buying tail, and this was telling us that the shorts are booking profit. We still needed confirmation of initiative buying coming in, which would come in form of a AP rate buying tail, which came on 14th of August. So 14th of August was the first place where we got an AP rate buying tail after making these lows of 5th of August. So once we did this, we were looking for the buyer to remain in control. And how do we make out if he's in control or not, or if he's doing a good job or not? We look at how the value is formed on a daily basis and what kind of extensions are happening after the initial balance is formed. So on Friday, we did make a range extension lower. We opened with a big gap up on 16th of August, and we probe lower, but and we made that CP about this last week also. We took support above 14th profile. So that was telling us that the buyer who had come in here is holding. And from here we went on to make a trending move higher. We made a huge range of I think 380 points, and we went closed at the highs. This was a neutral extreme profile which I was talking about, with the VPOC shifting to the top at 24505, and this extension handle is what I was talking about of 24518. It was not 24508, it was 24518. So this profile on last Monday took support right there, which was telling us that the buyer is still in control. And as long as we are getting these AP rate buying tails and forming higher value even uh, through 2-day composites, it is very clear that the buyer is holding this auction. When will we see that the trend is changing, or this IPM is uh, turning to a balance mode? When we start seeing overlapping value, and when we see an AP rate selling tail coming on any of the days of this week or even the next week, that will tell us that the upside is done, and now we can look for a probe lower. And then again on the daily basis, we will see how good the seller is doing his job, just like how we were evaluating this buyer who had come in, who started on 14th with this tail, and from then he's able to force range extensions to the upside, form value higher, and held on to previous days references. So here again, today's buying tail would be the important reference, and if this is not held, then we are looking for a probe to the lower VPOCs which we have in spot. So this is how we are placed on Nifty spot, and these hypos which I have spoken will get updated in that weekly report, and they will come out as the hypos for tomorrow, and we can accordingly use them to trade for this week. So it is important for us to take this selling tail out and to remain bullish on Nifty for the remaining days of this week. So coming to the Bank Nifty was not as simple a weekly profile as Nifty was, because in Nifty it was very easy that after the first day took support at Friday's extension handle, we formed higher value or overlapping value on all days. So it was very clear that the trend was clearly up. But Bank Nifty, that was not the case. If you see on 19th, last Monday, we opened higher, but we uh, stalled right at that daily VPOC of 5732. So when we stalled there and left this A period selling tail, it was not looking good for the bulls. And we went on to form a B-shaped profile and make new lows in the L period at 5283. So although we were still above previous week's POC, the start of the week was not an ideal bullish one, and value was overlapping to higher. So it was not very bearish also, except for this A period selling tail. So we needed to stay below this POC and break below these lows to again continue lower in the weekly profile. But what we did on Tuesday was we moved away to the upside. We negated this A period selling tail of Monday, and we went on to trend higher for the first half of the day. So first half of the day when we are trending higher, it looked as if it would be a trend day in the making, but Bank Nifty stalled at 51025, and from there it stopped making higher highs. The one time frame stopped, and we went on to make a big retracement back to the halfback of that day. So that was telling us that the supply is again coming back here, and this was also that gap zone from the 2nd and 5th of August. So it would naturally get sellers coming back, and from there we what we did was we went on to test the A period buying tail on Wednesday, and then again when we made these lows, made couple of range extensions lower, we were not able to break the lows of Monday. This in fact was a weekly failed auction because we made new lows after the first 5 hours of Monday, and then the next day we went on to make new highs for the week. So that 5283 was a weekly FA, and it would become a swing reference for us. So on Wednesday, when we made this new swing low of 5333, it was telling us that the seller who had failed here and which got the buyer come back into the auction is holding this auction, and we can look for more upside. And that is what we did. We opened with a small spike. We made marginal new highs on Wednesday into the close, and we continued that imbalance with a higher open on Thursday. But what we did was we hit that extension handle of 51087. These hypos get updated every day on our weekly report, and once that got tested, it stalled right there, forming a normal profile. And then again on Friday, when we made a higher open, we completed the 280R objective from another FA which we had in Bank Nifty, which was at 49806. So when we did that, we closed as a 2-day balance. And if we see the weekly profile of Bank Nifty spot, it is a neutral extreme one to the upside with a close right around that prominent POC of 50995. So that 50995 was our reference. The weekly profile is a neutral extreme to the upside with completely higher value, and prominent POC of 50995 would be the immediate upside reference. If it wants to continue the imbalance towards the weekly POC of 51484 and the 280R objective of 51929 from this 5283 reference. So this is what our objective for this week will be, and how we go on to achieve that, we'll have to follow that on a daily basis. So this is that weekly chart, and what we did today was we opened above this highs, but what we did in Bank Nifty was we made a probe lower, and the probe lower, we took support right at that weekly value area high, and from there we went on to reverse that probe and make new highs, but we that ended up making poor highs at 51387. If you see the hypos which we had for bank nifty, 51034 was our uh, upside reference, above which we were looking at 511899, 51308. So 51308 was hit, but we made a seaside extension. It was a marginal seaside, after which we did not extend any further. So as you can see here, bank nifty is at around this nice weekly balance which we formed in the last week and the first 2 days of July, last week of July and first couple of days of August. So this 51369, if we get an entry, there we are having a 80% rule in this weekly composite, with this 51484 being our first target, and the next would be this 51735. On the downside, will need to, although the close of today has got into this A period singles, we will need to hold these lows. If not, we are again looking for a test of this 15995. And if I go on to the daily chart of Bank Nifty, we can get better references of how the auction could proceed in the coming days. So on the upside, you can see how we have stalled right in this profile of 2nd of August. We will have 51308 was this reference where we have stalled today. And then if we are able to stay above this will be our next objective on the upside. Whereas on the downside, if we negate this buying tail, we are looking for a entry into this 2-day composite with this 15995 as the first target, and then this as our next reference. And if we break this A period tail, which is at 5828, then we are looking for a probe continuing lower toward that 5732 and this VPOC of 5518. So this is how we are placed in spot in Bank Nifty, and we will need to see how the auction tomorrow will be one important session for Bank Nifty, and we'll need to see if this small A period buying tail holds, or whether this seaside marks a important swing high on the daily time frame. So this is as far as the spot was concerned. We also have daily reports on Nifty futures and Bank Nifty futures, which are put up on the website every day. And we have the charts along with the references. We have a open type initial balance and the day type, which is already given. And then we have a small brief about what happened. And we also, just like how we have hypos in the spot, we have business areas given for the futures. So we had these business areas marked for today's auction. And as you can see, we have this 2-day balance in Nifty futures, which was telling us that we have a good chance of moving away from here today. So let us see what we did today. And it was similar in the Bank Nifty also. Bank Nifty also had a nice 2-day Gaussian curve, and we were looking for a move away from this. So let us open these charts and see what we have done today in both. And we'll also have a look at what the order flow showed us in the morning. So what we did in Nifty was we opened, I'll just split the chart and I'll switch the tab to a 2-window mode so that we have the order flow chart on the right side, and we can compare both the market profile as well as the order flow chart side by side. So I'll switch to the 15-minute order flow so that we first come up with what open type we had today, and then we move on to the structure of the market. So as you can see, this 915 bar, the opening 15 minutes of Nifty futures, we opened higher, and then after opening higher, we made a probe to the downside, and the probe to the downside got stalled at 24886, which was exactly the high of previous session. So Bank Nifty got rejected right at the attempt to enter into previous day's range, and we have the zeros on the sell side. So this was very clearly telling us that the buyers are defending this zone. And as soon as we got back above VWAP, it was a bullish sign, and we made these new highs in the second 15 minutes. It was very clear that the buyers are in complete control, because as you can see, we also have higher volumes in the second 15-minute bar. We have 27,000 contracts in the second 15-minute bar as compared to just 18,000 in the first. So this is a very clear open rejection reverse chart in Nifty futures. And we went on to probe higher on big greens coming in, complete those objectives which we had given. So we even went on to tag the uppermost target of today, which was 25075, when we made this high of 25084. But and you can see we have big greens all through the up move. And finally here, when we made these highs in a seaside is known to stall the auction. So that is what it did. It gave us a typical RS, responsive selling bar, and it also showed us completion of the objective. So once we get an RS at a good reference, we know that we need to come out of the longs. And this seaside gave a typical move back to VWAP. So because we had a bullish start, the POC of this IB bar we had in the second 15-minute was the important reference. And this was at 24990. And this will again remain an important reference for tomorrow. So you can see how this seaside extension, which probed to VWAP, took support right at that level. And we got an RB at VWAP. So after this, we remained in a narrow range where this RS was not been able to be taken out by the buyers, 25080, whereas on the downside, the 24990 showed us a RB coming up. So for tomorrow, we are still locked between these two NPOCs, which you can see in the order flow chart also. 24990 and 25080 would continue to be our references for the day tomorrow. And we will need to see some good volumes coming in either side, either end, for a move in that direction. So in case we are getting an IB at 25080, then we look for more upside. Or if we are getting an IS at 24990, then we look for more downside. So this is how we look at the order flow. We look at a combination of 30 minutes and 3 minutes, and accordingly look for some good setups. So this was how the Nifty futures was placed. I'll just have a quick look at the order flow charts of one of the options, one in Bank Nifty and one in Nifty. So because we are in Nifty now, let's have a quick look at the 24,600 call and how the order flow shaped up. We already have done a review about the Nifty futures order flow, and we have an idea of what it did. So we'll just see how the 24,600 gave us some signals at the open, and how we could use them for trades. Bring this to the starting of today. So this was the 24,600 call, which, as you can see in the open, got this IS and sorry, this is 23rd. Apologies, I had gone to the previous session. Yeah, this is today's chart. And you can see how at the open, it started with an RS bar and went on to make new lows of 316. And when it did make these lows, immediately in this bar, you can see it has come back above VWAP. So this is a nice green bar closing above VWAP. So this is telling us that this call is looking good. And this RS was our reference. We needed to negate this RS for us to be able to look for more upside. So once we got this 924 bar, a green bar above VWAP negating this RS, this was telling us that this is a good entry into the bar at 930. So this was very clearly telling us that yes, you need to be on the long side on in this option. So you can see how this IB reversed led to another IB, and then that IB led to another IB. So IB plus IB itself is a very strong signal, and it is telling you to hold on to this trade because you are continuously getting a big move on the upside. So in case you are in this trade and you see this IB plus IB forming, you will just keep trailing your stop loss to this previous POC and keep holding unless you see an RS. You would only want to book profit when one of these IB POCs get negated. So here, after we made these new highs till 939, this 401 was our reference, and then again we made these new highs of 954 where we hit 450. So once we, this was also not an ideal IB, but this was the place where you could have trailed the stop loss to this 427 and come out of your positions at 427 with holding some part at this 401. So what we did was again made new highs into the C period, and the C side you can see how we stalled right at that 500 level and gave an RS, and this marked the end of the upside in this call. So this is how you we need to look at how the signals are coming, and in option, especially when you're looking to go long, we need IBs at VWAP. And if we are getting good green bars at VWAP, and we've got a test or below VWAP and immediately come back above VWAP, that is a very good sign that you you can take a long trade in that particular option. So this was as far as the Nifty futures was concerned. Coming to the this POC of today would be the reference. 25044 is the POC of both spot as well as future. And because we are in the monthly expiry week, the premiums will tend to come down, and spot and futures will get, be in sync. So both the POCs are right at the same level, and we will, that will be the reference for tomorrow's open. And if at this POC we are getting IBs or buy side volume, then we'll look for upside. And I have already mentioned that 25080, that RSPOC of C side will be the first objective. In case we are not able to take that out, we will have to be happy with a small range even tomorrow between 25080 to 24990. So any of these two zones show us a initiative player, then we will trade with him for further moves. So this is what Nifty futures was concerned. And let us move on to the Bank Nifty, and you can see how Bank Nifty, we had the hypos given. 50974 was our first hypo, which was the POC from Friday, and then we had these upside references. On the downside, we had this 50962 as our reference. So how did we open in Bank Nifty today? So Bank Nifty open was not as clean as what we saw in Nifty, and I'll show both the order flow as well as profile chart. These are the 15-minute order flow charts of Bank Nifty from the open. And here in the 15-minute, it is not showing us what had happened. But if I go move to the 3 minutes, what Bank Nifty did was it gave us an open which was looking to get back into previous 2 days value. And that open, the high was right at previous IS level. We had an IS level of 2,499. So when that level was holding even today, So this was the Bank Nifty's opening order flow upside. We have got zeros on buy side in the first two. That 51 200 had initiated a put trade in Bank Nifty, thinking that it'll give us a good swipe in this 2-day composite. But what in fact happened was we went on to make low of 51065 and tag that 51211. 51218 was one important reference, and we saw this big seller coming there, 884 lot. So we thought it could give us that retracement down, but then it was not to be, because we held on above VWAP. So once we are holding above VWAP, then that is a signal that we need to come out. And this, you can see this bar which closed above the POC, this POC of 5112 was holding. So this is where we need to change our bias. And as we were looking at more downside, and because there was no demand at the open in the higher gap up, and it was stalling right at previous day high, but this seller also was not able to do much, and the auction continued to probe higher. So this is where we need to change our bias. And when this happens, when a move fails in one direction, it'll always there is always a good chance of that move giving a fast uh, impulse in the other direction. So with this as our reference, we could have looked for trading on the upside, and that is the reason it gave us a very quick move higher. We went on to make highs of 51338, which was there in the hypos which was given. We had this 51338, the gap singles from 2nd of August as our reference, and we saw how the order flow was stalling right there. So this is where, and although we got this IB bar, we were waiting even further towards that VPOC, which you can see of 51422. But that was not the case. What eventually happened was Bank Nifty did give us this new highs of 41378, but it gave us the RS there, and from that RS we are not able to take this out all day, and we went on to test the A period VWAP and the POC of 51180. So even in Bank Nifty, we have formed a P-shaped profile. And if we have a look at the 30-minute order flow, let's also have a look at the 30-minute order flow of Nifty. So even if we see the 30-minute order flow, you can see how the A period, this VWAP of 24950 and POC of 24990 will be the important references in Nifty futures for the rest of the week. And here on the upside, the C-side VPOC, the C-side RSPOC of 25080 would be the upside level. So the doubt, the question was the 4000 lot buyer. This is the POC. The 4000 lot buyer is not a single player who has come in at this level. You can see big numbers on the sell side also at the same number. So what the auction has done is it has given the highest volumes at this level, 25044. So that is the reason this will be our reference for tomorrow, and we will need to see this level of today has got both buyers and sellers. Both buyers and sellers deemed it to be the fairest price of today. That is the reason we have closed there. So both buyers and the sellers are in agreement that this is the fair price for today. Tomorrow we will need to see which of the buyer or the seller is able to move away from this particular zone, and the order flow signals and the volume will guide us in that regard. If we are able to move away from this to the upside with IBs, then this will be our reference, and we will look at higher references, and vice versa for downside. Tomorrow 25080 would be that another reference which will have to be taken out on the upside. And on the downside, we have already spoken about this 24990 and 24950. So we'll need to watch how this shapes up and accordingly look for trades. And coming to the Bank Nifty 30-minute order flow chart, we have an interesting development in Bank. We have an IS which is formed. So IS at 51294 would be our reference. We have a big seller which was at 51280, and after this big seller came in, we are not able to take out this 51280 all day. So this 51280 300 would be a supply zone for tomorrow, and we will have to watch that zone and see how the volumes of tomorrow show up. So this is how we are placed. On the downside, as mentioned, 51180 would be the support. If we get sell side signal here, then we are looking for a probe down to this VPOC of 51038. So that is how we will have to watch the order flow. Because we have a 30-minute IS, we will need confirmation. We are definitely not bullish on Bank Nifty till this 51300 is taken out. In Nifty, it's a different case. We have closed right in the middle, so it is kind of a neutral bias. But in Bank Nifty, certainly it looks as if it is looking for a probe lower to test yesterday's selling buying tail. Today's questions, please feel free to ask. I'll answer them before winding up for the day. So fine then. I think there are no queries. So let us see how we shape up for the rest of the week. It is a settlement week, the monthly settlement. So it can be an action-packed one, especially after the narrow range days we had last week. So let's take help of these market profile and order flow nuances which we have, and look for some good profitable trading setups. So that is it for today, guys. Thanks for joining in, and till the time we meet up next, all of you have a nice trading week ahead.